Was that a big recruiting video there? Is that?
Ooh,
Well, I don't have any eligibility left, but you had me. If you had time right now.
there's a lot of good players on that film right there. Some that are still there, but some that we got to replace.
Yeah.
So that made me kind of nervous watching that film.
Well, when you were named the head coach of the Buckeyes, it's been well documented, you had no head coaching experience, and you're only 39 years old. Coach Porter said to him, hey, a few more years, you'll start getting some gray hairs like I have. But how does it feel to have one of the most prestigious and pressure-filled jobs in all of college football?
Well, it's an honor, first off. You know, when you walk into the Woody and you see the coaches now along the hallway there, and you see Woody Hayes, and you see Earl Bruce and John Cooper, Jim Tressel, Urban Meyer, you know, it just kind of gives you some pause. And then there's a picture of me there, you know, with a whistle, and then with my family. And every time I walk by there, you know, it's like you show some respect for what's come before, and obviously the great players and the great teams that have come before. And it's a great responsibility. It's a great honor, though. But to get caught up in all the expectations and everything that way, it doesn't do you any good. And I talk all the time to our team about this, and it's the same thing with our coaching staff, is that if you worry about the past, you just get frustrated. If you start to focus on the future, you get anxiety, you start to worry about things. And so what are we doing today to make sure we have a better future? And so if we just focus on today, the future will take care of itself.
So you coached 2 years in the NFL and now, of course, many years in the collegiate ranks. What are the differences?
Well, there's a lot of differences. You know, I think first off, when you're in college, you get to recruit the type of kids that you want. You know, you get to bring in the families and the type of kids that you want. In the NFL, you know, James, as you know, it's very different. You know, the GM and the owner and the personnel department is very separate to, you know, from the coaches. And so you don't typically have a lot of say in who comes in. You know, sometimes the draft goes on and someone's in your room and you're coaching them. And then also there's a lot of movement in the NFL. You know, guys can be out the door. And the difference in college is you can have an impact on their lives, and that you build relationships with the families, you build relationships with the brothers, the sisters, and then you kind of build their future as they go. You're also bringing them into your homes, you're teaching them life lessons, and you're having that impact on these guys. And so at the end of the day, I think it's more stable in college. I think the NFL is unstable. You know, I enjoyed my time in the NFL, but it was, you know, kind of a year in Philly, a year in San Francisco, and things happen that are out of your control. And I think you have a bigger impact in college overall.
Coach, it's been talked about how the core, right, Mark Pantoni and Mickey Marotti, a lot of those guys are the same. The offensive staff pretty much is the same. But the defense kind of got reshaped, excluding Larry Johnson. Now, you've had time all offseason, spring ball, some summer stuff. How is that staff gelling with everyone working together for the first time?
I think it's been great. I think if you ask our players right now, you know, because I go around to the training room, I go to different people throughout the building and just ask them, you know, how's it going? You know, how do you think the relationship between the new coaches and the players, or even the older coaches and the players? And I leave almost every staff meeting and ask the guys, you know, do you love your players and do they love you? Because if they do love you, then we got something special going on. And I ask the players this all the time. You know, I say, who do you love the most in your life? And they all say their family. And I said, well, when you think of the word love, a lot of times you think of it as like a romantic term or kind of a soft term. But I said, imagine if someone walked into your house and tried to hurt your family. I said, would that be soft? They said, no. It'd be passionate, it'd be intense, it'd be violent. And I said, imagine if you love your brothers, your teammates, and your coaches just like you love your family. Think about what we could have special there. And so we talk about that all the time. And I really believe that our coaches have bought into that. You know, they have them over their house for different meals. Their families are very much involved in the Woody around a lot of times. So that all that work is being done now because the relationships are important to be built now. Once September and October comes, and you know, we're going to go through tough times, whether it's injuries, whether it's, you know, hopefully it's not a loss, but when we go through times like that, we got to stick together. And those relationships are being built now. So I think the staff's doing a great job on defense. I think that they've really built a lot of confidence over there. I think the guys have really embraced that. And so I think so far I'm really pleased with what we did.
So you were an assistant coach for 17 years, now the head coach. What are the differences that you've seen immediately?
A lot more photos.
A lot more photos.
Yeah.
Even today.
There's a lot of photos out there. A lot more pressure. I think the thing that I noticed right off the bat, you know, thinking back on last August and the first 3 games, was just that you really start to take a picture of everything now. You have a wider scope when you walk into work every day. You see something on the ground, you know, who's picked that up, you know, and sometimes when you're assistant coach, you're just worried about your position, you're worried about recruiting your position, and in your kind of little box right there. when you're the head coach, clearly everything is your responsibility. So you just see things from a different lens. You notice things that maybe you didn't notice when you walked into a room before. Maybe the kid in the back's not paying attention, or who has to sit up in the front of the class, or things like that. But also, really cool, you have an impact on these kids' lives. And so anytime there's an issue going on, whether it's medically, physically, even mentally, you can have an impact on them. And so they'll come in, and the good news is that they come to you. And I always want to be an approachable head coach. That's really what I believe strongly in. I think these kids nowadays in our generation need someone that they feel comfortable to come into. I loved my coach, but I couldn't walk into his office and have some conversations that I'm hoping our guys can hear, because there's a lot more expectations nowadays with social media and things like that. Our guys playing in that big stadium, and I got to be honest, after a game, the first thing they do is grab their phone and look to see what people are saying on social media. You saw it, James. And so I think it's really important to have that type of relationship with the kids as a head coach, where they can come in and have those conversations. And so, building that environment for these kids is really what I've been trying to do over the last few months.
I was always a lot quicker to check Twitter after wins.
Read all the good stuff?
Yeah, all the bad
stuff.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my time in St. Louis, we didn't have a lot of wins. But anyway, Coach, I don't think a lot of people realize that when you make a decision, especially for pro athletes, but this can also do with coaches at any level, it's a family decision.
Yep.
A lot of the time. And it's more than just you. It's the wife, the kids, and how they're going to be impacted. I'm sure you've mentioned it. They carry a lot of weight. Can you tell us a little bit about your family, the wife, children, and how your new role, heightened visibility, and obviously maybe some scrutiny down the lines, let's hope not, of fans may impact not just you, but the entire family?
Yeah, it's a lot. I grew up in a town in New Hampshire where my wife grew up about a mile from where we live. And so we grew up in a community where our family's all really still back there. And so we were the first ones to leave. And so we understand what community is, and that's why we really embrace Columbus, because we know what it means to be part of a community here. And we felt that the minute we got here. And being part of Buckeye Nation has been awesome. The city of Columbus has been really good to us. But it is a change. And Nina and the kids have felt that. We went to the art festival downtown yesterday. I walked around for an hour, but then had to get going because a lot of people want to take pictures. There's a lot of pictures, but always very, very supportive. The people are always super nice when they come up. The one tough part is, like, if somebody goes up and then gives their phone to my wife, and asks her to take the picture. That doesn't go over very well. That's, usually start warming up the car and get going, because that's about to be over. But she's been great. She understands what it is. Her dad was a basketball coach, so she understands the lifestyle. My son, who's 11, RJ, he thinks he's the GM of Ohio State football, so he walks around the Woody like he owns it. But that's the college environment. And I share the story sometimes. When Terry McLaurin was drafted this year by the Washington Redskins, RJ sent a message to him. I let him do Instagram a little bit. We monitor it to make sure it's good. But he said, congratulations, Terry. You're like a big brother to me. And what Terry sent back to him, almost put me in tears. He says, RJ, trust all your dreams. You were like a brother to me. I love you. I'm going to miss you. And my dreams came true, and they will for you. And it was like, that's why we get into coaching. As much as all this other stuff's great, it's because of that. And I really believe in having our family around, and that's been really good. The girls, they don't quite know yet, what it's going to be like. I do worry a little bit about if something doesn't go well, working through that. But that's all conversations we're having now, and having a good plan for that. So.
Well, when you get a guy like Justin Fields to transfer over, I know he's not named starter, all right, so I won't ask you to, drop any news here this morning, but when you have a guy like Justin Fields that transfers into a program, and he's so highly recruited, and it's well publicized, he's the highest ranked recruit to come to Ohio State since these rankings have been put together. He had an Amazon series. There's a lot of hype around him.
Yep.
First off, how has he been jumping in the locker room, and how do you navigate this whole offseason by making him compete and prove himself when a lot of Ohio State fans just think, hey, this job's handed to him?
Right. Well, I think when you look back on the last 12 months, it's really amazing what's gone on when you think about that quarterback room. And I think it's kind of the state of affairs right now in college football at the highest level, is that the quarterback position is very unstable, unfortunately, and trying to come up with ways to make sure it gets more stabilized moving forward. But when you think about, we had Joe Burrow, Dwayne Haskins, and a room full of quarterbacks at this time last year, and they're all gone. Now the good thing was that Dwayne, had an unbelievable season, threw 50 touchdowns, and as a sophomore, became the 15th pick in the draft. So we're obviously very proud of that. That was great, and proud of Joe. He got his degree and fulfilled his obligation, and he's having a good career. We all support him down at LSU. But then, when Justin became available, when Dwayne declared, it just seemed like a great fit for both sides. So when he came in, he really embraced it. And then we had a couple guys leave, and we had to kind of change that room around, which was not easy. And so, he got here in going through spring ball. That's not like playing games, though. He hasn't had a year or two in the program. We brought in Gunnar Hoke just recently, so he's just learning the offense. And so they're going to be kind of green and young early on, so it's going to be one of those things where it's a little bit of a work in progress. But, all the guys in that room have a lot of talent. Justin, in particular, his size and speed and ability to throw the ball is, off the charts. So, but you got to play the game. And one thing that Dwayne had the opportunity to do was sit in the meeting room for a year and a half, and really learn and go through a couple springs and a couple preseasons that Justin and Gunnar and those guys won't have an opportunity to do.
I always say to people that you can tell what a good coach is because they don't just have a system and throw guys into the system and say, hey, we have to do it this way.
Right.
And what you've been able to do with JT Barrett a couple of years ago, the offense looked a certain way. Dwayne Haskins last year, the offense changes, and obviously you utilize his arm strength. How long does it take you with a guy like Justin that comes in, how many practices, how many months, to where you get a feel of, okay, these are the plays that we can run that are going to utilize his skill set the best?
It takes time. It does. It takes time. The good thing is our offensive staff has now been together for a little while, and we've kind of had the JT. We went to Dwayne, and now we'll kind of figure out what this year brings. But there's a lot that goes into it. There is, and it's not just the quarterback. That's part of it. It's also the offensive line. It's the running backs. It's the guys we have on the perimeter. And I think when you look at the guy, we do have some playmakers. Now we had to replace 4 guys up front. 3 wide receivers who were really talented last year. We lost Mike Weber and obviously the quarterback. So it's going to be a very different looking team. There's still some core principles that we're going to always have. The way we run the football and play action pass and those type of things. We were heavy in the drop back game last year with Dwayne as the season went on. And that worked for us. Where that's going to be this year, that's something that we're still going to work through in the preseason.
Now, recruiting is the lifeblood of any program. And as I'm sure everyone in here knows, as we have a bunch of diehard Buckeye fans, that we've been taking some Pennsylvania kids here. We took Julian Fleming, who has to drive past State College to come to Columbus. He commits. And then we just had a kid flip. Talk about the 2020 class, 2021. How far down the line do you look? I mean, are you like Lane Kiffin where you're offering 7th graders? Or how far down the line do you look with these kids?
No, I draw the line in middle school.
All right, good. All right.
No middle schoolers. Although their parents want to send us film anyways.
I'm sure.
I've got a few business cards from some 8th graders that I'm sad to say I put in my pocket, but no, it's been going really good. I say this all the time. What we have to offer at Ohio State's off the charts. And we're not allowed to pay these guys, but what we provide for them is crazy. And then you have the city of Columbus and all of Buckeye Nation who help us with the Real Life Wednesday program. And what that is that's our program that Urban Meyer started for 7 years, where it was to help job placement, internships, job shadowing opportunities. We have our job fair on Friday at 5:30 over at the stadium. We'll have over 100 businesses from Columbus that come in. And at that job fair, they have to go in, they have to get 3 business cards, they have to follow up with an email. There's resumes that we help them make. And so at that time, these guys are making connections to help them down the road. Huge part of recruiting. Obviously, when they come into the stadium and see the atmosphere during the fall, really, really big to see 110,000 people. So all those things, and then with our infrastructure that we have in terms of recovery and our physical, mental, all the different stuff that we provide for guys, it's going really well. Our staff's working really hard. 2020 class is really shaping up. But it's hard. It's a very, very competitive environment. And, you know, a college football coach is interesting because you have to go out there and you have to recruit people, but then you turn around and then go coach football. They're two very different things. And so you have to wear a lot of hats, but our guys have really embraced it. But our number one job, we say it all the time as assistant coaches and coaches, is to recruit. So that's the first thing we do every day, because if we don't have that, then we're in trouble. Seen a lot of stuff pay off. We are really getting going with the 21 class now. That sophomore group already have a couple guys committed, which is awesome. And then the 22 class, we're still letting them grow up and grow some facial hair before we start recruiting too much. Yeah.
The most important thing, as you know, I have to tell you this, is the week, the team up north. And you can tell from your first press conference, you said, look, I understand. At Ohio State, you have to beat your rival and then win every other game. Those are the expectations here. But how will you handle that rivalry? When I played for Tress, every single day we had a maize and blue period. Every practice, it was usually forcing turnovers, offensive guys, protecting the football. Football is the most important thing. I'm sure Urban had handled it a certain way and handled it well, 7-0. How do you plan to handle it so where it might be a summer workout and the guys just need a quick reminder of, hey, this is why we're doing this. You can't get to our goals of the college football playoff, national title, Big Ten title without going through them.
First off, a lot of deep breaths when I start to think about the game. Start to get a little worked up. And the way last year's game went, you know, we're going to have our hands full next year because, you know, that kind of got one-sided and they didn't expect that. So, but we have our team up north periods, which we do in the spring. We did that this spring, which is a period where we're practicing against them for 10 minutes. We turn on the loudspeaker and play our music and play highlights from the game before. Coach Marotti, our strength and conditioning coach, will have those days where if there's 225 days before the next game and there's 225 reps they're about to do to end the workout. Things like this to make sure that everybody understands what that rivalry is. We have a huge ceremony in the spring with the gold pants where former players come in and talk to the team about the rivalry. We show a video. Nobody's allowed to wear blue in the facility. If they do, they have to do 5 push-ups right on the floor. Doesn't matter if they're 90 years old or
we're in trouble.
In a stroller. We make them do it. So that's how it goes. If they say the word in the facility, same thing. So it's a way of life. In our recruiting room, we have a list of all the people they've recruited, and that's our first thing is to beat them. And then after that, we kind of go from there. So we have to live it every day.
That was a really big adjustment for me, getting in the media. Remember my first time at Big Ten Network. I'm talking about, well, you know, the team up north. They're like, hold on, what? Sir, you have to say the word here. So that's been painful. That's been painful.
Just don't record anything.
Although not as painful when you've won 14 of the last 15. You know what I mean? Not that painful. But Coach Day, I want to thank you for spending some time with us this morning, and we're looking forward to seeing what you and the Buckeyes have this fall. It's getting close. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.